Title: The Unseen Garden of Love. In a quiet suburb, there lived a couple named Sarah and David. They had weathered a decade of marriage, and their home was filled with the laughter of their three beautiful children. However, beneath the surface, their relationship had become like a turbulent sea, with daily arguments and a palpable distance between them. Their once shared dreams now seemed like distant memories, buried beneath layers of resentment and unspoken frustrations. The garden of love they had once nurtured had withered, overrun by weeds of misunderstandings. One chilly autumn evening, after yet another heating exchange, Sarah and David found themselves sitting in the dimly lit living room, the echoes of their words still lingering in the air. They gazed at each other, wearied and disheartened. As they sat in the quiet aftermath, their oldest daughter, Emily, entered the room, her eyes wide with concern. She had witnessed too many of these clashes, and the weight of her parents' unhappiness weighed heavily on her young heart. Emily took a deep breath and, with a bravery beyond her years, spoke softly but firmly. Mom, Dad, please, you used to be so in love. What happened? Her words pierced through the thick tension in the room, awakening a spark of realization in Sarah and David. They looked at each other, seeing the pain reflecting in each other's eyes. The following days were spent in quiet contemplation. Sarah and David realized that they had been so focused on the challenges of daily life that they had neglected the very essence of their relationships: communication, empathy, and understanding. In the same quiet suburban neighborhood, there was an elderly woman named Mrs. Wilson. She had lived there for decades, quietly observing the ebb and flow of life around her. Known for her wisdom and kind heart, Mrs. Wilson often took evening strolls through the neighborhood, sharing her insights with everyone willing to listen. One evening, as the golden sun bathed the streets in a warm embrace, Sarah and David sat in their backyard, reminiscing about their journey of rediscovery. They had worked diligently to rebuild their relationship, but they couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for Mrs. Wilson's presence in their lives. Just as the thought crossed their minds, Mrs. Wilson appeared at their garden gate, her gentle smile and twinkling eyes a comforting presence. Mrs. Wilson sat with them in the backyard, surrounded by the fragrant blossoms and the laughter of children. She listened to Sarah and David's story, nodded in understanding. Dear ones, she began, her voice carrying the weight of years of experience. You have embarked on a sacred journey, a path of rediscovery and reconnection. But remember, to maintain good relationships, one must keep checking the emotional bank account. Every kind word, every act of kindness is like a deposit. And just like a bank account, you need to make regular deposits to make it healthy and thriving. Sarah and David looked at each other, realizing the profound truth in Mrs. Wilson's words. They understood that love needed continuous nourishment through gestures of kindness, appreciation, and thoughtfulness. Mrs. Wilson continued, and my dears, don't be too possessive in the relationship. Possessiveness smothers the very essence of love. Allow each other room to grow, explore, and be independent. And remember, a healthy relationship is one where each person is allowed to be their authentic self. Her words hung in the air like a gentle breeze, carrying with them a sense of liberation. Sarah and David took this lesson to heart, promising each other the freedom to be true to themselves. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow across the garden, Mrs. Wilson spoke once more, her eyes twinkling with a lifetime of wisdom. A great relationship, she shared, is about two things: appreciating the similarities and respecting the differences. You are two unique individuals, each with your dreams, quirks, and strengths. Cherish the common grounds you share and honor the beautiful tapestry of your individuality. Sarah and David nodded in deep agreement. They realized that the journey was not about the becoming identical, but about celebrating the unique colors they each brought to the canvas of their relationship. In the years that followed, Mrs. Wilson's words became the guiding stars of Sarah and David's journey. They checked their emotional bank account, celebrating their individuality, and gave each other the space to grow. Their relationship blossomed into a masterpiece of love and understanding and inspiration of all who witnessed it. And whenever they faced challenges, they would remember the wisdom of Mrs. Wilson and the old woman who had illuminated their path. We lost sight of each other, David confessed. We let the weight of our responsibilities drown out the music of our love. Sarah nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. We stopped truly seeing each other. We assume instead of asking, and we let misunderstanding fester. At that moment, they made a pact to rebuild their relationship break by break, nurturing the garden of love that had been neglected far too long. Months passed, and the transformation was palpable. The arguments became conversations, the misunderstandings were met with patience, and laughter once again filled the halls of their home. One day, as Sarah and David watched their children play in the backyard, they knew they had stumbled upon the secret to a strong and lasting relationship, a garden that needed constant care, attention, and love. They gathered their children around them, sharing their journey and the wisdom they gained. They spoke to them about the importance of communication, of seeing and understanding one another, and of nurturing the bonds that held them together. Their children listened with wide eye wonder, absorbing the lessons of their parents' journey. As the years passed, their relationships flourished, rooted in the foundation of love that Sarah and David had rebuilt. And so the story of Sarah and David became a cherished tale, a reminder to all new couples that love, like a garden, requires constant care and attention. It's not about avoiding conflicts, but about navigating them with grace and